America is the engine of the global economy. It boasts a GDP of nearly $15 trillion, and it's home to the world's reserve currency.
In America, there's a chant that you always hear, USA, USA, we're number one, we're number one.
But many are starting to question that belief.
When it doesn't quite pan out that way, when you have economic problems at home, when you're challenged internationally in a political crisis, you still want to believe we're number one.
And they're certainly being challenged right now.
This is the first really big financial crisis. And when it all goes into reverse, then you get a crash. Because this was a super boom, the crash element is very, very, very bad.
Certainly there was a shift in power relations because of economic changes at the end of 2008. But the first thing to say is this isn't new. But just because you have a power shift doesn't mean you have all of a sudden American decline and a new superpower.
The U.S. is still 10 times richer than China. It's still the leader in lots of things, but it has to get used to the fact that lots of countries around the world could look to Beijing as well as to Washington. It has to get used to the fact that it won't be the only driver of global growth.
But the American president is not quite ready to concede the point.
Let's meet the moment, let's get to work, and let's show the world once again why the United States of America remains the greatest nation on earth.
The country still has huge assets, but you can't say that the domestic policy agenda looks positive. The really big question is, can the US get its own house in order?
Over the last 4 years, American household income has declined by almost 10%. 1 in 10 adults is unemployed, and 1 in 6 is living on food stamps. The recent Occupy protests are just the latest to question the American dream.
We rattled their cage and now they're cracking down. The harder they push us, we're not going to break. We'll bend, but we won't break.
We go to the Middle East, be like, hey, we're going to spread democracy, and here we are, our government's suppressing democracy. It's just like, how much hypocritical can that get?
But while America Inc. may have lost its AAA rating, American brands still dominate the globe. Coca-Cola has a global revenue of $35 billion per annum, Microsoft $69 billion, and Apple a whopping $100 billion.
Rumors of the collapse of the U.S. Tech sector innovation is, let's say, overblown. I think that there's a lot of innovation still in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of innovation in America, full stop. You can't count out companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook. You know, they just keep coming.
But even this dominance is falling away. In 2007, the top 5 global corporations were American. Today, there are only 2, and the world is catching up fast.
I don't think that that means that innovation is over in the United States. It just means that there is, growth happening in a different way and at a different magnitude in some of these other markets, particularly in Asia.
But whether it's the decline of the West or the rise of the rest, the dollar is still seen as the safest bet, giving economists some reason for optimism.
At the moment, the US dollar wins the ugliness parade. As long as the Americans do not completely mess up the domestic situation, I think the dollar survives as the global reserve currency because there simply isn't anything else.
So it's a mixed balance sheet. Since the middle of the 20th century, no other country has come close to rivaling America's economy. And yet its decline, however long it takes, now seems almost inevitable.
If you thought the U.S. economy was going to rebound quickly, like after every recession, you will be sorely disappointed.
For all the problems that the United States has had, whether we talk about economically or politically, there's always a point from which you can start again, rebuild, grow. Other countries don't have that luxury. So yes, America, for all the talk of decline, is not going to implode.